Hey everyone, I am so excited to be here today, and I can't wait to talk to you about this topic. As many of you may know, I'm a life and a career coach, and I've worked with professionals all over the world. And I have spent thousands of hours hearing about the private struggles and secrets and tools that many of these professionals have used to create the lives of their dreams. And I wanted to take some time today to share with you three of the things that I have learned that we can all access that will better allow us to create a life that aligns with what we truly want. And all of these things originate during the first 10 years of our lives. So we're going to talk about being more childlike in our goal setting and more childlike in our lives. So I'm going to give you three critical tips to help you do just that. Before we dig into that, though, I want to talk a little bit about myself as a little girl. I grew up in Iowa in a small town on a farm out in the middle of nowhere, me and my three brothers. And back then, before the internet was really a thing, we had a lot of traveling salesmen. And now I know today, if there's a traveling salesperson coming by, it's typically like a pest treatment or lawn treatment or something that I just am never really interested in. But when I was growing up, the traveling salespeople were almost always selling books, encyclopedias, or other types of collections. And again, this is before the internet was really a thing. So you can imagine kind of feeling isolated out in the middle of nowhere on this farm. My parents have four kids, and these random salespeople, always salesmen actually, show up at the door and they're wanting to sell my parents these sets of encyclopedias. And I never know how it happened, but more often than not, on several occasions, I would come into the house and there would be a stranger sitting at the dining room table, having coffee or having some kind of food, discussing these collections of books with my parents. And I never thought it was weird until I look back now and I think it was kind of odd that they just welcomed these people in, no questions asked. And just like any good host, my mom would go out of her way to feed them and ask about their family and offer them things to drink. And they would just hang out for hours at a time trying to sell us these books. And they always succeeded. We had so many collections of encyclopedias, and I remember them fondly. But over time, we had enough encyclopedias, and the book salesman just started offering weirder and weirder things. And of course, my parents continued to buy these new and weirder collections of books. One in particular was a collection by Time Life, and it was the Enchanted World. And we got that set. Okay. So then fast forward, and we get another collection of books, and it's called Mysteries of the Unknown. Why my parents got these, I don't know. I am fairly confident that 10-year-old Autumn is the only person that read any of these weird books. What were these books about? You may be wondering. Some of the topics that come to mind, and quite frankly, they are sitting on a shelf behind me. I would love to pull them out and show them to you, but we'll probably go down a rabbit hole. So we're not going to do that. But some of the topics were psychic voyages, healing yourself with your mind, ghosts, witches, and wizardry, all sorts of very strange things that might have been a little bit beyond what a 10-year-old girl should be devouring alone in her bedroom. So if you were to watch 10-year-old Autumn back then on the farm, what would you see her doing most days? And I will tell you, when I wasn't spending time in my bedroom writing or journaling or dancing, I was trying to bend a spoon with my brain because there was a section in these books on how to move and reorganize molecules with your mind to form other shapes. And then it extrapolated that principle into being able to create anything that you wanted. And I remember reading this and thinking, why isn't everybody doing this? This is fascinating. We can literally create whatever we want. We can change the molecules in anything around us and create a whole new world. And so I'd read these segments on, not some of them were on telekinesis, and I would try to move things with my mind, and some of them would be trying to reorganize molecules and reshape things with my mind. But I would pour myself in to these books, and then I'd sit there with my spoon, try to reorganize the molecules. So this is our first takeaway. There's visual aids since we're doing this a little bit remotely. This is the first takeaway. Yeah, I was a weird child, right? And now I'm this weird adult that stands before you. Why am I telling you this story about myself as a weird child? The reason that I'm telling you this is because that 10-year-old Autumn had something that many of us have a hard time accessing today. And that is unwavering belief and lack of skepticism. There was no part of me that thought for a second, you are insane. And there's a reason the whole world is not doing this is because it doesn't work. Right. Even as I say that, like little Autumn in here is like, I don't know. I mean, maybe some people, Gandhi probably could have done it. Mother Teresa probably could have done it. Right. Like there's a part of me that still wants to believe it. And that is one of the skills that children offer. They never question whether or not what they want to do is possible. They just believe whatever they want to believe and they forge ahead. Now, think about it this way, right? Fast forward to today, if we were to look around at world leaders and world changers, those individuals have this ability, this unwavering belief. Some of them may be narcissists. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but one of the things that's interesting about narcissists is that they have unwavering beliefs in their abilities. And that, if you're someone like me who believes in laws of attraction and laws of manifestation, that ability to plug in to that unwavering belief in your ability, the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, has no option other than to answer that frequency and that vibration. If you're a normal person who doesn't buy any of that, let's say it this way: when you truly believe that you can do something and that belief never wavers, the odds of you achieving it are significantly higher. When you believe that something is possible and there's no reason that you can't create it for yourself, you will do everything in your power to make it happen. Somewhere along the lines, when we become adults, we start to recognize that, you know what, maybe there's a reason not everyone's bending their spoons with the brains, right? Like maybe it doesn't work. Somewhere along the lines, as adults, skepticism supplants that unwavering belief. We're able now to cull all of our experience and find evidence contrary to our belief. Gosh, I like to think that I could be president of the United States, but here's all the things that I've seen in history and in my life telling me that maybe I don't have the skills, maybe I'm not the right person, it'll never work, I don't have enough money, all of the reasons why it won't work. But I'll tell you, 6-year-old Autumn thought for sure that she could be president if that's what she wanted. Somewhere along the line, she decided that's not what she wanted. But the point is, I was never confronting myself and watering down those beliefs with evidence to the contrary. And as our logical brains have grown and as our ability to access historical data and empirical data of our lives has grown, we as adults give more weight to that data and start letting go of some of the belief. And I want you just to consider the impact that that is having on your life and consider how different your life would be and how differently you would show up day to day if you truly believed at a core level that you could create whatever you wanted to, and you acted from that space, setting aside all the empirical data, setting aside all the facts to the contrary, and you just moved forward. What would be different for you? That brings me to the first childlike tool that we could all use a little bit more of in our life, and that is unwavering belief in whatever it is that you set your mind to, unwavering belief that it's possible, and a commitment to continue on in that belief until you decide, I don't want to try that path anymore, for my own reasoning, not because the world tells me it's not possible. In order to fuel this idea of unwavering belief, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that I want? What is that dream? What is it that I'm pursuing? One of the things that I think about often when I go back to myself as a child is just how much time I spent alone in my room, journaling, writing, and just messing around and dreaming truly about what I wanted, maybe just at school or the boyfriend I had a crush on, or what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? There was all these iterations of dreams for my future. And I spent a lot of time massaging those dreams and playing around with those dreams. And I think a lot of us do as children. But once again, somewhere in our path to adulthood, we stop that dreaming. I remember the first time that my career coach asked me, what do you want? What's your vision for your future? And the long, painful pause that followed it, because I didn't know. And the realization that not only did I not know, but I hadn't even thought about it for years was very painful for me to recognize, because I realized, gosh, I'm in my 30s and I have no idea what I actually want. I just got on this train and I'm just riding it, hoping that it stops somewhere that I actually want to be, right? And we all do this. I can't tell you how many of my clients, I probably could tell you, it's probably closer to 99%. About 99% of my clients, when I ask them, what is it that you want? What's that vision? They don't know. And the first thing I can do is assure them, you know what, it's normal not to know. Because in this world, in this society, in our lives, we don't take time to ask the question. And the more time I spend coaching people to create the lives, the careers, the relationships that they actually want, that bring them joy, the more I start to realize that without having some kind of a dream and without having some kind of a goal, we stop evolving and we stop growing. And I truly have concluded at a core level that the worst thing that we can do to ourselves, to that child, that us at age 10, is to stop dreaming and to have a life unlived, a life that's not fueled by dreams, because it's that pursuit of those dreams, that trying, that makes us a better person and forces us to evolve. Think about that child, that 10-year-old child who wants to learn how to ride a bike. They never tell themselves they can't do it, but that's something that they decide, and they just keep going, and they just get on the bike and they scrape their knee, or they have these massive wipeouts and they just keep going, because it never occurs to them that this goal, this dream is not available to them. They just do it. But yet as adults, again, our logical brain tells us, skin, knees hurt. Falling off of a bike can be dangerous. You could really hurt yourself. And we use that observation to tell us to stop dreaming or stop pursuing the dream. What's more, for many of us that do have dreams, the first thing that stops us from embracing that dream and running with it is, I don't know. I just don't know how. I just don't know how to do that. When you ask a child what they want to do, I want to ride a bike. I want to be president of the United States. I want to find a rainbow unicorn and fly around the world with it, right? If you ask the child what they want, they're going to give you all those types of answers, but they're never going to get stuck in the how. They're never going to consider, well, what if unicorns don't exist? Never mind a rainbow unicorn, right? They just believe that it's possible and they just start pursuing it. But for whatever reason, when we set our sights on, you know what, I want a new career, I want a new job, I want a spouse and a family, we get stuck and paralyzed in that how. And what I am offering to you today is that not knowing the how, the full recipe, doesn't matter. Because inside all of us, we could figure out that next right step and the next right step and keep going. And what I take that to say is that I don't know is neither here nor there. And it's certainly not a reason not to pursue the dream. But instead, we have to access that childlike belief that the dream is possible, set aside the not knowing the full recipe, and instead focusing on the next right step. I think a lot of this comes from the dreams that we pursue up to a certain point. Even myself becoming an attorney, there was a very clear recipe on how to become a lawyer. And, okay, I got my little recipe and I'm just like going to execute and off we go. The problem is that once we execute that recipe, we stop dreaming for one. But even if we do start dreaming again, odds are pretty good that whatever that next dream is, there's not a clear recipe. There's not a clear how that's laid out for us. And that feels very scary and it feels very different than previous dreams that we've pursued. But I truly believe that telling ourselves, I don't know how to do that, is the biggest lie we can ever tell ourselves. And it does nothing for you but keep you stuck. Children don't care about the full recipe and the full how. They know that they can figure out the next thing to do. And then once they're there, they'll figure out the next thing to do. It's very simplistic. If you ask a child, how are you going to find a rainbow unicorn and fly around the world? They're going to walk you through it. And maybe after 1,000 questions, you could stump them. But I promise you, if you push, they're going to keep coming up with solutions. And that is the childlike vision and wherewithal that we need. We need to move from, I don't know, to, I actually have a dream. And not only do I have a dream, I might not know the recipe, but I have an idea. I have an idea where to start, and I'm going to start there. We have to remove, I don't know, from our thinking and from our vocabulary. It is a deadpan stop energetically and from an action perspective. And instead, we have to ask ourselves to think like a child. What would a child do? What would be the first thing they would do to create that goal if they really believed it was possible and they wanted to commit to believing that they can figure out the path? When I was a little girl, my brothers used to play this game called Strongman. And we had a trampoline on the farm. And again, this is a farm, right? Like our lawn is not cushy and green and beautifully carpeted and lush grass. It's hard and dry and rocky and riddled with probably garbage and broken bottles and things like that, right? And our trampoline was sitting in this kind of an area. And it wasn't like the trampolines that you see today. There was no padding, there was no net around it. Half of the springs were missing. So if you jumped in the wrong spot, you just kind of like went into oblivion underneath the trampoline and no one knew where you were. And from that point, you just wanted to not get jumped on from the people above you on the trampoline. Anyway, we would play this game called Strongman. And the whole point of the game was that you would be the last man standing on the trampoline. And that was the only thing anyone needed to know. There were no rules, there were no holds barred. And so the goal was to remove others from the trampoline so that you would be the last one standing. And I say remove, and what I'm really meaning is kick, punch, bite, throw, kick in the face, throw them over your shoulder, twist them, pinch them, whatever you could come up with to get them off the trampoline. Those were the rules of the game. And that's it. Now, mind you, I had three brothers. Two of them went on to play college sports. You can imagine about how well versed I was in playing this game. But not playing was not an option. Okay. And remember, going back to that childlike belief, it never occurred to me that there was no way I could ever win this game. I just played it and believed that maybe, just maybe, there was a little ninja inside of me and I'd figure it out, right? Never happened. But I had that belief that I could do it. And so I played the game. And I knew that, or I believed at a core level that I could probably figure it out, right? I accessed that. I don't really know how to be a ninja, but I could probably figure it out. And so I'd practice all these things, I'd do all these things, and I'd try and get better and better at this game. And it never went anywhere. And I always got hurt, and I was never the last one standing. But my point in sharing this with you is that sometimes, even as adults, we are going to set goals and we're going to believe that we can do things that maybe never come to fruition and maybe aren't ours, right? Maybe they're not meant for us. I'm fairly certain now, as a woman in her 40s, that being a strong man was probably not for me. And that's okay. But you know what I did learn through that experience, that evolutionary process, is this. I'm a dirty fighter. And I say that because what happens is this: no matter what your goal is, The point is the pursuit of it. The point is the belief. The point is setting aside that I don't know how and seeing who you become in the process. For me, in this strongman game, I became a dirty fighter. And you know what? I don't regret it for 1 minute. Maybe that's not part of my life path, probably not. But I will tell you that I became different and stronger in a different kind of a way, having tried so hard to pursue that goal. And we can think about our childhood and all of the silly things that we do that are just like that. Learning how to ride a bike. How many times do you fall off? You fall off in front of your friends, you fall off in front of your boyfriend or your girlfriend. It's embarrassing. Those experiences craft us to be better and stronger and different. And so that is why I think these tools are so important, because when we start to access that unwavering belief, find that goal and take action towards it, that's the beauty of life. And that's what I think a lot of us are selling ourselves short from. We're not allowing ourselves that evolutionary experience of pursuing the goal. Whether you accomplish the goal and become the strong man is neither here nor there. It's who you become in the pursuit that changes you. And there's something about children and the way that they show up and the way they execute and follow through that allows them to evolve. And if you watch children and how quickly they pick up new skills and become different little humans, it's a beautiful thing to watch. And we can all access that if we pull ourselves back to ourselves as children and access that belief, set aside that I don't know, and embrace dreaming once again. The critical tool that I think we all need to pull from children in order to do this is to slow down, right? I look at the clients that I coach and I look at myself years ago and I just see someone running a marathon and running right by water stations, running right by granola bars, running right by the first aid, and they're just running, right? We have these recipes to accomplish that first big goal. Maybe it's college or getting married and having kids, or maybe it's some type of advanced degree. We execute the recipe and we just keep running on this marathon. And we never stop to pause and ask ourselves, where are we running to? Am I running from something? Or am I running to something? And why am I running? Do I need to be running? We don't ask ourselves that question. And listen, I get it. Life is busy. We all have a lot going on. But I want to tell you a little bit of a story about how I have realized how important it is for us to pause and listen to what's happening in here and in here, and to take a break from the marathon when life is nudging at you to pay attention to something that you're not really focusing on. I spent many, many years in an abusive and toxic relationship. And there were signs along the way, of course, and little nudges and little feelings like this is scary. This is not right. This is not normal. And I'm busy. I'm running a marathon, right? I'm becoming a lawyer. I'm building a practice group. I'm doing all the things. I'm busy. And I'm just picking up people along the way. It happened to include a relationship that wasn't great. And so I'm moving along in this relationship and I'm feeling kind of these nudges and I'm kind of tap dancing on the edge of this sort of dark depression, to be quite honest. And it started to scare me. And what I realized I needed to do was I needed to start journaling. And I did it for a different reason than I'm going to talk to you about today, but I think it serves the same purpose. I did it because I was afraid that something would happen to me and no one would know all of the things that I had hidden and all the things I hadn't shared with them. And I wanted to document my experience so that if I suddenly fell off of the side of a cruise ship, people would know what was happening with me. And so I started journaling and I started accessing yoga courses and I started meditating and I started to really connect with myself and really start looking and seeing and telling myself the truth about what was happening in my life and what was happening in my experience. And I will tell you that journaling that led to yoga and meditation and more inner work saved my life, because there's something about looking at your life as described by your own hand that can be tremendously painful and tremendously powerful in causing an awakening and pushing you to change things that you're not wanting in your life anymore. It can drive an awareness of things that maybe you've been ignoring. And so when I see professionals in that sprint, I always think about that time in my life. And I always say, if you don't listen to the nudges from life, right? If you don't pay attention to the lessons that life is trying to offer you, it's just going to ratchet up the noise, and it's only going to get scarier and more intense until you pay attention to it. And I had that experience myself. I know that eventually things ratcheted up so much that I was very fearful of for my own life. And that was when I realized, like, gosh, I haven't been paying attention to this. And now it's getting real scary and I have to go. Right. I always say life will give you the opportunity to jump off of a cliff, or it'll throw you off of the cliff if you don't. And I think when we focus on the sprint, we're just setting ourselves up to be thrown off of that cliff. Life is trying to tell you something, and it's on us to stop and pause and connect with what's going on around you and what you're running by in that marathon, and take those hints when they come. For many of us, those hints are a whisper about something that you want, something that you don't want, something that's not working, something that's scaring you, something that you want to try, something that you want to change. And those whispers are scary. And that's why we don't listen, because we go back to that adult brain that's like, well, I don't know how that's going to work. That seems really scary. Never done that before. Right. So we ignore those whispers. And we look back to ourselves as children and how much time we spent in introspection, playing around, being creative, and letting that sort of subconscious information rise to the top. We need more of that. And what I see time and time again is that in the coaching space, my clients are finally able to take that breath and connect with themselves and listen to those whispers. And it's amazing to see some of the awarenesses that come. I'm not doing anything magical. I'm just creating a space for them to draw that connection with themselves. And that is something that we can also learn from children. We need to take time to breathe during the marathon, to check in and ask ourselves that question. Where am I running to? Am I running from something? And why am I running? Do I need to be running? And that is the last tool that I think children have to teach us. And that is really to listen to yourself. If there's some type of a nudge, a want, a whisper, a worry, something that's scaring you that you don't want to deal with, pay attention to that. And the simplest way to access that is to do some simple journaling and just see what comes up and where it leads you. So, in conclusion, today, I want you to think back to yourself as a child. Think back to the things that you learned, to the goals that you had, to that unwavering commitment and belief that you could do anything. And try and find some space to connect with yourself and craft a dream that just might force you to evolve and to become an even better version of yourself. Thank you so much for being with me here today.